Love and greetings, and welcome to the Marriage Foundation channel that is Marriage Help. And it's not ordinary marriage help. We hear all the time how what we teach here is vastly different from what you hear from others. And there's a very good reason for that. I am not part of the vast group of Western psychologists who have turned their attention to marriage help, because I started out as a divorce mediator. And it was only because one of my couples asked me to help them save their marriage instead of take it apart that I even began to question whether Western psychology had the right answers. I always thought that some of them were kind of crazy, others were great. I had a lot of friends who were Western psychologists, but they don't understand marriage. As much as I appreciate them for wanting to help, and clergy who do a better job of helping couples but still don't fully understand marriage, I got into it from a different perspective. My perspective, and it's very relevant for this topic. This topic is, are there signs of a marriage that is headed towards divorce? Of course there are. And I'm going to get into this with a focus on giving you the opportunity to recognize your marriage is heading towards a divorce. It probably is, if you're asking that question. And more importantly, doing something about it. And when I say something, it is so different from what most marriage quote-unquote experts will tell you. The difference is, again, that I got into marriage help with a focus of making your marriage amazing, not just saving it. And that's what I began to learn when I started in my pursuit of understanding marriage, is that a marriage that is run correctly, and yours is not, I'm just being honest with you, is producing happiness in abundance where you can't even stand it sometimes. It's so amazing. You wake up in the morning with a smile, appreciation, gratitude, and your life is so full. Isn't that why you got married in the first place? So I made a lot of discoveries. I'm going to share as much as I can with you in this short video, but then do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel for sure, and then go to our website and see all the offerings we have. So much of it is free, but in your case, you got to get into the affordable offerings that we have so you could turn your marriage into the marriage that you wanted when you first found your soulmate. Soulmate, what a term. I don't use it lightly like most people, because I know that it's okay to speak of marriage in terms that are spiritual, not religious. Look, the Bibles, all scripture are filled with guardrails and advice, but synchronizing everything to work in marriage, we have to go to the essential principles of a spiritual life, because marriage is a spiritual life. In fact, I've redefined marriage as a spiritual path that you take as an individual with your soulmate, because a spiritual path is an individual path towards what? Towards happiness and love. What could be more spiritual than that? Happiness and love are spiritual. And your soulmate wants the same thing you want. You found your soulmate. They're the one person in this world who you chose to travel this path with together, and you've been blowing it. So let's get into the signs, okay? Number one, and I've only listed 3. There's a lot of them, but I've only listed 3 because I don't want this video to be so lengthy and so cumbersome. Not because I get into talking a lot, but I get into giving you information that is so important to you. And I know that our time is limited, but stay with me all the way to the end. And then you'll like the video, you'll subscribe, and we'll be on board. Number one, this is so typical of a marriage that is heading towards a divorce. It is not remembering your love for each other. Let's make it personal. You don't remember your love for your wife or for your husband. It's not top of mind. Instead, what has happened is that your marriage and your consciousness has been filled with all this mundane, unnecessary stuff. Unnecessary because most things in the world take care of themselves. You don't have to worry, you don't have to fuss, you don't have to put a tremendous amount of attention on things. They take care of themselves, leaving room in your heart and mind for your spouse. And when you're not doing that, when they're not the priority of your life, when your love for them is not above virtually everything else, and there's a reason why this happens, then what happens is, and you may be starting here, or you may be starting here close to already getting a divorce. Your marriage is going to slip. Now, why does this happen? And again, all of the principles that we use at the Marriage Foundation are scientific. So you can trust them, and it's going to make common sense to you. So we are comprised of three parts. We are a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. You're not your body. You have one. And you have a mind. You're not your mind. This is a big separation between us and Western psychologists. We don't believe you're your mind. You are consciousness. Now, even if you're an atheist, I really don't care. You are what you are. You are a soul, which means you are a core of consciousness that has dominance over your mind and over your body. But we're not taught that. There's a fear of teaching this. There's an unknownness about this. Even most religions will tell you, you have a soul. But that's incorrect. You are the soul. You have a mind and you have a body. By the way, if you're a clergy and you've been following me, I love you to death. Or if you're a therapist and you've been following me, become a TMF marriage counselor. We now have a course online for you. Take a look at it, sign up. We need more and more of you whose thinking is aligned with ours. And this is the most practical. So what happens is, going back to this topic, what happens is, because we don't think, we don't know that we are a soul who has a mind, the mind has basically taken over our lives. What do I mean by that? The habits that you have, the instincts, the automatic reactions to everything. That's how we behave. We don't stop and think. We don't stop and experience. We don't evaluate anything. And so we are slaves to this mind. When that happens, we are victims of our own mind. It's like having a computer, and every time there's a pop-up, you do what it says. Because all the mind is this computer. That's not you. I am I. That's a Rastafarian expression. I love it. I am I, man. I heard it a long time ago, and it's so perfect. The big I is the little I. The little I is the ego. I'm getting too esoteric. Anyway, not remembering that you're the soul who has found your soulmate, and that's where you merge with them, is important to remember, because it will dictate how you behave with them. And your behavior with them has not been good. You have been over familiar. Your communication has been in the garbage, meaning you haven't treated them with the respect that you treated when you first met each other, and you wanted to show your appreciation for them. You wanted to show your love for them. You wanted them to experience what a wonderful human being you are, and that your desire to connect with them was on a very high plane. You've let all of that go because you have forgotten your love for them. That is always a sign that your marriage is heading towards divorce, because in real life there is no this. It's either moving up or moving down. That's how it is. You know that. The trend is your friend, as they say. So you're moving in the wrong direction because you're not feeling the love for them. You're not putting it out. Now, when I say love, I'm not talking about emotional love. I'm not talking about expressing love for the sake of expressing love. You got to feel that love first. So in our courses, what we do is we teach first how to manage the mind, how to open the heart. These are critical. And because we haven't been taught, there's a whole lot to learn. Number 2, this is a big one because the other side of it has gotten so out of hand. And this is not having sexual intimacy. I didn't say not having sex. I said not having sexual intimacy. It is, there's this school out there that says, oh, well, you don't need to have sex in your marriage. And it's true. If you're highly evolved, you don't really need to have sex in your marriage because you're connecting on such a high plane. But that doesn't include me and you. We need to have that sexual intimacy. What is intimacy? Intimacy is where we connect. Okay? And sexual intimacy, and this is worth almost writing down. Sexual intimacy is when we use sex not for pleasure, not for entertainment, not for recreation, not for release, but to connect. We use sex to connect, to open the door, because it's a psychological tool. It's psychophysiological, actually, and it's the highest psychophysiological tool there is sexuality when you're using it. The problem is that we live in this world where sex has become, in sophisticated terms, a recreational pursuit, where we are seeking pleasure, where we want to get off. That's a little lower, but where we want to experiment and try different things to have more pleasure. How many times have you heard about people experimenting with sex to increase the love connection, the connection between the souls? It's not what's happening in our world. And what happens because we don't do that is sex becomes dry, commonplace, an individual pursuit for release, for relief, a place of confrontation and conflict. And it's beautiful, it's sacred when we know how. And this is something that we need to learn. When have you ever heard it expressed this way? I know you haven't, because I saw it when I was a divorce mediator. I saw the frustration that people had. And then when I started working with couples, this was over 20 years ago, but I always refer to it because I learned a lot as a divorce mediator about what was really troubling couples who were heading for divorce. So I saw it all. Okay, number 3. Oh my God, you're going to relate to this. Not really caring if you're spending time with each other. When you first got together, you couldn't wait to see each other, right? Do you remember? Oh, I found my soulmate. I love her. I love him. It's perfect. Our harmony, we get along so well. Our communication is off the charts. We do everything together. And And now it's like, I think I'd rather do this. I think I'd rather do that. And you're even maybe a little tense about being with each other. Why? Well, because you have abused your sacred space of marriage. You see, marriage, I gave that term, I coined that phrase, sacred space of marriage. Because marriage is two soulmates who are together. But you've turned into cellmates. There's tension. You're critical of each other, expressed or not. You condemn each other, expressed or not. You don't compliment each other. You don't appreciate each other. You're critical. Conflict, arguing, not even discussions. You argue. You probably even yell at each other. You get mad at each other. All these things do not belong in the sacred space of marriage. It only gets worse. Remember, it's a trend. This is the law of momentum. Where you set your direction, where you set your energy, creates momentum. And if you don't do it intentionally, then you become a slave to your mind, as I've talked about before, and it goes downhill. So this is what's happening in your marriage. You don't have to write to us. By the way, you can write to our counselors. It's a free service. Don't forget, the Marriage Foundation is nonprofit. So you could write to us and say, oh, I can't believe it. Paul just hit the nail on the head. This describes my marriage. Yes, it does. I know it does. Because this is true for every marriage that is not moving up. Because if it's not moving up, it's moving down. Now, what do you do? What should you do? If I hit the nail on the head, and I know I did, well, you definitely subscribe and you watch these videos all the time, because you will learn so much. And you'll get the sense of how to behave in your marriage, how to be in your marriage, how to connect with your heart and be your heart. We are meant to be joy-filled. We are meant to be love itself. That's the nature of the soul. So you watch the videos, you read the articles, maybe you get one of my books, but if your marriage is already, the way it works is marriages that are going towards divorce start here, and then they start slowly going this way. If you'll notice, even in your marriage, there was never a point after your marriage, after you got married, after the first few months maybe, it didn't go like this anymore. It used to, but now it's going like this. And it starts off slowly. And if you're still here where it's just slowly going down, get one of my books. Either Breaking the Cycle or Lessons for a Happy Marriage. In both of those books, define a template of what a happy marriage looks like. You learn so much. Communication, you learn all these things. But if it's already, it starts building momentum, and then pretty soon it's going at a steeper dive. Then you need the course for men, if you're a man, or a course for women. You don't want to talk to your spouse and say, hey, you need this. No. I learned that an individual, all by themselves, can completely transform their marriage without their spouse even realizing that they're utilizing the course. And I did this when I met with people live too. I did not want to meet with couples. I would meet with couples only once or twice, mostly just once. And I would see that one of them was ready, because it takes some effort. One of them was ready. And I would say, look, here's what's going on. If just one of you really works on your marriage, the other will get it. So I would find the one who I felt was more ready, and I'd say, why don't we meet? And I made it clear, it's not because you're the wrong one. It's not because you're the one who is screwing up your marriage. I think you're the one who can lead your marriage. And that's why I'm asking you to meet with me individually, because it will change your marriage completely for both of you. And if the partner said, well, I want to improve myself too, I'd say, okay, great. We'll meet individually. I'll meet with you this time. I'll meet with you that time. So it's not that you shouldn't both take the courses, but it's so unnecessary. So that's it. I hope this was as helpful for you as breathing, because your marriage is an amazing thing. It is amazing. We don't learn this because where did we learn about marriage? Truthfully, movies, television. So you want to learn about marriage from Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is that where? I'm sorry. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way, because I'm a guy. I really like action movies and I like his stuff. But I don't want to learn about marriage from him. And in fact, because I was in San Diego when I had my practice, I met with a bunch of actors and actresses and screenwriters. They didn't know about marriage, but we're all able to learn. So that's about it. I hope this worked for you. Like the video, please like the video. Leave a wonderful comment of how much I've helped you, and I'll see you next time. God bless you, and take care. Thank you.